Should be fun, should be a little bit different today. Just a couple quick reminders before we really head into things and kind of get into some of our content and updates. You can check your chat section throughout the call. We're going to be sending you our normal resources that we send out through there. So keep an eye on that, as well as if you have any questions, go ahead and send them in the chat. We're going to do our best to get all of your questions answered like we usually do. So make sure that you're sending those in. Just a quick reminder, the slide deck will not be available after the call. However, we do have excited news. We are live streaming right now from LinkedIn and Facebook for the first time. I know Michelle's really excited about that.
Yeah.
And then I also want to let you know that we don't have a formal agenda for these meetings. Our conversations are really just led by the questions you guys are bringing in, and we really try and tailor it to that. So we appreciate your feedback. You guys will all get a survey at the end of the call to take, and we really would appreciate if you figure that, or if you fill that out, because that's going to help us kind of tailor some of our next meetings we'll be doing to the content you guys want to be seeing. One other note, I know that this is, again, a little bit different format than normal. So some kind of new reminders on how we think it would be best to view this meeting so that you can see everything that's going on. We do recommend that you change your view to speaker view. You can find that control in the top right corner of your screen, and it should go back and forth between speaker and gallery view. Again, we recommend having it in speaker view so you're not seeing too many people popping up. And then the second thing is we do recommend if you go into your video settings and scroll down to the meeting sections, you can select hide all non-video participants. So we recommend doing that as well.
And I just want to say, when you guys do that, it's the little video icon that's in the bottom. It says stop video or on video. If you click the arrow button there and go to video settings there, and then scroll down on the right side, you'll see under meetings a little button that says hide non-video participants.
Nice. Okay. And then before we get off, I just have one quick reminder for us that we are not lawyers. This is, give me just a second. We are not lawyers. And we just want to keep you reminded that these are our opinions that we're going to be sharing today. So
these are our opinions, you guys. I just want to make sure you guys realize that as such, you should take it as our opinions. You should consult an attorney for any legal advice or any anything specific to your circumstances. We're going to be sharing based on our experience. And just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Okay. So nice. Go ahead, Alyssa.
And then for our next announcement, so I know that Michelle's been on here kind of talking and backing me up here, but I want to formally introduce her for those of you that don't know. Michelle is our CEO at Meeting Sites Pro, as well as the moderator and kind of the brains behind this operation. So I want to introduce Michelle, and she's going to kind of come on and talk a little bit more about some of the upcoming meetings we have. I think the first one we have is going to be this September 10th one with Wildly Different, which we're really excited about. We're going to be doing kind of our usual, we'll do a little meetings happening now update, as well as share some resources with you guys. And then we're going to be doing a virtual escape room, and we're going to be featuring Wildly Different. If any of you guys attended our attendee engagement one, you guys would have seen them. So it's going to be really excited. Michelle, are you excited?
I am. I can't wait to do it. So what's special about this is all the innovation that's happening right now. And while a lot of individuals have just done face-to-face, so this was a team building company that did mainly face-to-face team building, they've now gone ahead and pushed that into the virtual world. So if you are interested in something like that and you're like, well, I'm not sure about what an escape room is like or how this would transfer, this would be a great opportunity for you to get to experience it firsthand. And that way you can take it to your clients, and even the hotels on here. This be a great recommendation for clients as well as a team building idea. So that said, I'm going to go to the next one, which is I love rock and roll music, live music, any kind of music. I love it. And I miss getting together and going to see concerts. And this company, Song Division, they are an actual rock band. individually, they've toured all across the country, and it's been a really great experience to actually see what they've done to bring their rock band ideas into the virtual platform. And so we're going to have an hour of fun with them where we're going to be really just focused on doing the making a song. We're going to go into breakout rooms and write lyrics, come back. They're going to do some 80s theme where they're going to play pieces of a song and you're going to get to sing the last part of the lyrics. And we'll have prizes, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys don't miss that one, and you can, bring your teams and invite other people on for this. It'll just be a lot of fun to be able to, explore where we are right now. And then I want to say
speaking of prizes, Michelle, I think we have a couple that are going to be coming out today.
Yep. So I just learned how to say it. It's oregano. Mike Simzak has graciously donated some 8 portable speaker giveaways for today's show. And so we're really excited that we're going to be able to provide those. That's during the breakout sessions. When we have those, we're going to be identifying the breakout star from that session that contributed the most and help guide the conversation forward with innovative ideas. So be aware of that. And with that being said, Alyssa, thanks for being on. I appreciate your help for this. I'll have you go off screen now. We're used to doing these as webinars, so we're all on screen all the time. So next thing I want to talk about is who we are and how we got here. And those of you that have been on for a while, some of this will be redundant, but I'm going to ask Jessica to join me too, so that we can have some conversations around the next few topics. But I'm Michelle Bartoloni Hardy. Now Michelle Hardy, I got married. I'm the CEO of Meeting Sites Pro, and we're a full service worldwide meeting management company, and we focus on leveraging our core competencies to save our clients time and money and allow them to manage their content. And we are passionate about meetings and exceeding our clients' expectations. And we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary on March 2020. So I'm super excited about that. And our services, we do everything from around face-to-face meetings, including now virtual and hybrid, which is the way the future has been. And we've been offering these live meetings every Thursday. But this, you guys must know, is our last live meetings updates 2020 and beyond for in this series. While we have a few meetings coming up, they're more about focusing on suppliers to draw attention to what they're doing that's innovative and new, especially in this environment. So please note, we'll have our information put in the chat area of the call. So use that during the call. We'll be dropping resources in there. Pull the resources out of there as you see things that you may be interested in following up on. I also want to caution you, I love all the highs and the welcoming in. Now that we're going to get the show started, I'd ask you guys to limit the use of chat to just your questions so that it makes it easier for us to identify your questions and find them in there. Our goal is to answer everybody's questions that go into that chat. So I may call on you if you ask a question and I'm not quite understanding. I may call on you to come out and explain your question. So please be aware of that. We ask everybody to be on camera. It was a prerequisite to joining the call today. So if you are off camera, I would ask you to please utilize coming on camera. We want to see everybody that has been on these calls from the beginning, even you new people that are on. Most of you guys, 90% of you have been on these calls week in, week out since we started, and we do appreciate all that. So it's nice to actually put names with faces now. I feel like I know you guys. So that being said, we're going to kick off with the poll. Jess, can you want to talk a little bit about what that's going to be?
Yeah, so our first poll, that's how we got here. We've discussed, our history and how we got here. Before we get started, we just want to ask you, how are you guys feeling today? Are we happy, confused, motivated, angry, discouraged, encouraged, or inspired? If we could just take a minute and answer that poll. We'll see results come up here in a minute once we get all the answers. Michelle, how are you feeling today?
Happy, as usual. I'm like, I wake up this way. I drive everybody crazy with it. Is that polling question coming up? Because I don't see it.
Yep, I have it.
Okay, perfect. I guess the hosts don't get a copy of it.
Okay, we're looking at the results now. We have 29% of people here are encouraged. That's so exciting. And then another 26% are very happy. So that's great for everybody. I'm excited to see that we're happy, we're motivated, we're encouraged. For those of you who are feeling discouraged, confused, that's completely normal. I think we've all had days where we feel like that too. Today, what we're kind of going to do is sort of address some of those feelings in terms of meetings. And we're going to talk about that in a minute with the purpose. Right before we do that, we have one additional question. What brought you here today? So that should pop up on your screen now.
And you're going to see we're going to use the polling a few times throughout. It's a way of engagement. So hopefully when you guys are on these, you're watching what we're doing, because engagement's a really important piece of the virtual world, and virtual's not going to be going away anytime soon.
Okay, so now we're seeing that most of you are here today to gain some knowledge. That's so exciting. That's what we're here to do. We're also working to stay relevant, to hear from the panelists, to be inspired. Michelle, do you want to talk about our specific purpose here today?
Yeah, so those questions are very important. That's why we asked them at the beginning here before we get to the next slide, which is the purpose of this meeting. Back in March, with the rest of the world shutting down, as you guys know, we've all experienced it together. There was a lot of confusion around what was happening. I didn't think this was going to potentially be lasting more than just a couple of weeks. And as months have gone by, I'm starting to realize it's not going to be going away. So that said, we jumped in May and started doing some think tanks, and we started putting together leaders from across the country to really discuss how to move forward. And how to stay inspired and relevant while we're going through this. So you guys are all aware, we are on this call today to elevate each other, to inspire one another, to share resources, to give hope, and to help us get back to business. So I'm hoping those of you that are feeling discouraged, when you get off this call, you feel more encouraged to be able to move forward. This is a safe place to open up and ask questions. The only thing I ask is if you are asking questions or making comments, we make them positive. This is all about live meetings, face-to-face meetings, and I realize there's a lot of people out there that don't want us to be having face-to-face or meeting in person. If you are one of those that are on this call, negative comments are not welcome on this call about face-to-face meetings. So I'm going to set that from the very beginning. And if you don't like it, you can log off the meeting. But I am encouraging you guys that are on here to be positive and forward-looking, because we are here to inspire and motivate each other and to share resources so that we can all move forward in this environment and find a way forward, be resourceful, and be innovative. That said, we scour the internet regularly for positive news. It's hard to find. Most of it's negative. So a sign that the industry is recovering, we have noted here the actual operating profit in the U.S. hotels reached positive territory for the first time in July since February. So you guys, that's really promising news. And I put up here the GOP PAR. You can see that the worst month was April, where it was had a negative 17.98. But in May, even though it was still down, it was better. And in June, even better. And July is even better yet. So what we're seeing is a slow trend towards everything really recovering, albeit slowly. We are seeing some recovery. There's another set of data that we found, which is in the movement and booking behavior of travelers. And what's important on this one is hotel occupancy. So let's start with the air and hotel bookings. They've increased slightly from the initial shock of everything, but they've been stabilizing with a slight upward trend here. And you're going to see there's going to be a resource dropped in the chat box so you guys can have access to this as well. I'm looking at this from a North American standpoint, but you can look at this globally. It's updated regularly. It's a great resource. And hotel occupancy has not been hit as strong as airline bookings have been hit, which is suggesting a substitution of air for other methods of transportation, like bus, train, driving. And that's what we've been talking about. A lot of the meetings that we've been having have been more regional in nature. Also, there's been a lot more local recreational activity. So it's showing a recovery, which goes to say that there's some optimism around getting out and spending times outdoors. It is gradually passing. The fear of it is gradually passing. So I want to make you guys aware of that. And we're going to throw up another polling question around trends. What trends do you expect to impact your ability to move forward with face-to-face meetings?
Michelle, what trends do you feel like you're seeing that are affecting your ability to have face-to-face meetings? I know we've talked a lot about the travel restrictions in different states and the ability to do safe technology and kind of that testing speed. The quicker you get results, the more comfortable people are doing it. Do you have anything else to add as we get these results back?
Well, it's been challenging from the standpoint of there's been different regulations all over. You guys have probably been feeling that, the 14-day quarantines and just different regions having different data that's guiding them. So if we look at on August 21st, I want you guys to know, which is some promising news, the data that the CDC was looking at for where we are today has made them feel comfortable enough that they've actually lifted their 14-day quarantine recommendation. So that's on a federal level. I do know that you're still going to need to follow the local, regional, and state guidelines for that, but that's really a positive advancement there. So that helps. That'll help. I think as all the states and the regions and everything start opening up and lifting up those quarantines, I feel like it'll help with the movement and the travel that we're having.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's promising about that 14-day quarantine is what I saw from that slide was that the CDC is seeing something in their results that if you're following the social distancing guidelines, if you're following the mask wearing, that there may not be a need to quarantine after the 14 days.
Absolutely. Yep. How did the results turn out?
The results, the vast majority of people were looking at that COVID-19 treatment or vaccine as to what's going to impact their ability to have in-person meetings. Over 68% announced that as the number one indicator of when they'll be able to move forward.
Perfect. Thank you. And I mean, we can talk about all of these guidelines and all the policies and procedures in place. They don't work unless all of us are really practicing it. So it's a joint responsibility here. So on here, the only thing I haven't covered yet is if you visit a high-risk area or attend large gatherings or cruises, they're still recommending quarantine for 14 days and getting tested. Who they are, I'm some places, the CDC is not recommending the 14-day quarantine, but if you are in a high-risk area, obviously you should do that. There's things we should do to keep everybody safe. Okay, let's move. Fantastic. So this is all about all of us being in this together. It's a shared responsibility, and you can see there's a lot of companies and our industry taking this very, very seriously. So some of the things to try to help promote health and safety for all travelers, so that while we're looking at getting back, if we're all doing this, it'd make us all feel a lot more comfortable and confident about traveling again. Some of these things are like creating transmission barriers, super, super important. And we've been talking about using plexiglas to try to create separation, enhancing sanitation. You can see the electrostatic sprayers that a lot of people are using, in addition to additional disinfecting of high touch areas. Promoting health and safety screenings and safe travel practices is really key, with wearing your masks and temperature checks and gloves in some instances for food service guidance. And again, we're all in this together. It is a shared responsibility, and it's important that we take this very seriously, so that we all have the confidence to being able to get back to meetings. Some of the technology that we're seeing, again, to try to help with this is touchless solutions. Touchless solutions include ticketing, ID, check-in, payment for services. You're going to see a broader range of touchless service. I've already seen it as I've been going around, and I went out to eat the other day for the first time since February at a sushi place, and it was really comforting to know that the server was wearing a mask. They had a QR, those little QR boxes that I could scan with my phone. The menu popped up. I ordered on my phone. I paid by my phone. It was a fantastic transaction with limited touch points that I really appreciated, made me feel safe. Same with cross-country flying. They've done with the check-in process. It's always been, I've been able to do it on my phone, but they have done a lot of things with the mask wearing and the social distancing to really make flying a pleasant experience as well. Not to mention the HEPA filters and the air that's filtered every 2 to 3 minutes in the planes to try to keep us safe on there. So know that a lot of stuff is being done to be able to help us get back to business as usual, or the new usual, the new normal.
And Michelle, I know you mentioned masks and those transmission barriers. What's your biggest problem with masks?
I like to see smiles. I always have. And I think the covering of the face has always been an issue for me. And so I really like this idea. Tawana from Face Shields, Tawana Woods from Face Shields has, Meeting Shields, sorry, has been on the show several times. And this is a new product that they've come out with that I really love, that you have the ability to see somebody smile through here. She also sells these high tech, look at this here, little face shields. And so this has been fantastic. I use this when I'm going on site to do my meetings now, and you can see a smile. I still wear a mask in addition to this when I'm up and moving around. If I'm stationary and I'm social distance, I'll go with just this to be able to welcome and greet people. But there's several solutions that are out there, and I encourage you guys to be innovative and look to see what's out there to whatever you guys can do and put in place in your lives to make you feel more comfortable and moving forward is going to be beneficial. These help for me. They may or may not help for you. There may be something else that you'd want to consider, but this is an innovative product, and I'm really excited about what she's been doing with her company to come up with innovative, creative ideas and how we can move forward. So this is one company that's doing it. If you guys know of anybody else that's doing things that are innovative and exciting, if you guys can always drop me an email, michelle@meetingsitespro.com. I'd love to hear the idea and even showcase it on one of these shows that we put on. So we have another poll question, and what is your current comfort level with meetings, that we're going to have put up here now. And really, there have been a lot of meetings that are happening now from the last couple of months, and our panelists are all doing them. So I'm super excited. We're going to be sharing those with you in just a moment. we're going to go through some of the meetings that we've seen happen at this time now first, but beware, we're going to be talking about this in great detail. So those of you that are on the fence and not sure about how to navigate forward, I'm hoping you get some great insight on this call to help you with meeting room sets and food and beverage and safety protocol, along with COVID-19 guidance on if somebody comes down with symptoms, to help you have the confidence to be able to move forward in a safe way.
Yeah, of
Jess,
course.
do you have results?
Yeah, the results were just on the coming up now. Most of our audience here today has a good understanding, 60% say they have a good understanding of what it takes to manage a safe meeting during COVID. We have 4% of our audience here today that are experts. I hope that some of our panelists, we know several of them have had safe, successful meetings, have been doing contact tracing and haven't had any issues. Some of our group has just some understanding, and we're hoping to increase that today, as well as those who don't have any understanding. So moving on, we have a couple examples of face-to-face meetings before we let our panel discuss their product and successes. This first one is a meeting at the Savannah Convention Center. Michelle, do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, this happened about 3 weeks ago, and this is a 450-person meeting. And what's interesting about this meeting to me is they knew all the participants and they've tracked them since. So a lot of people that are having the meetings have not been doing any tracking to see what has happened. They haven't heard any negative, and I would assume that through contact tracing, they would efforts that are being done when somebody is identified with COVID, that they would get calls to know that. But this one actually did their own contact tracing, and it's been a little over 3 weeks, and there's been no cases. So what's promising about this is they had a live face-to-face meeting. You can see everybody was social distance. What you can't see is people had masks on. You can't see that there was social distancing, bringing people in and out. They controlled the flow, and they had a very successful meeting. So it's possible, they're doing it, and it's just really, really important that if we're all the attendees knew to wear their masks and to social distance and to not touch your face and just all the stuff that's been in place, everybody was committed to making sure that they did that, and that helped make the success of this. And we have another example. Alhi recently did a back to business forum that was at the Omni in Dallas. And this was a hybrid. They could have taken more people. They had 125 in-person people. They had to turn people away and have the rest of them go virtual. 800 of them were virtual. And so these are some of the examples of the room set they used. They had a main session. They had breakout sessions. They used the theater seating. They also used the 1/6. At the U shape, and they did 1/6 in the classroom. The food delivery, you can see on here, prepackaged food is really the way of the future. But you can see it doesn't have to look like it's a McDonald's experience. You can see in the bottom middle picture, that's a very great presentation with prepackaged food, and that can be delivered by a person on a tray, handed out when they come in. There's all sorts of options for this. So just keep that in mind when you guys are moving forward. Also at the Marriott Copley Place, there was a Boston Directors Catering Task Force with 23 participants. They all sat 6 feet apart. They wore masks. And so that was that meeting's been promising. They're happening. You're going to hear more about several of our hotel partners having face-to-face meetings. And so we're going to start introducing people now. So I'm going to bring on Cornelia Young from Hyatt Regency Orlando. And I'm going to remind you guys, if you could please make sure that you have your screen in speaker view. That way you won't have to be looking through all of the faces on the screen to see who is talking. That will be helpful. And it's at the top of your screen under view options, and you go to or at the top right hand, you can also click on speaker view versus gallery view, and you can see the difference in the views as they pop up. Okay, Cornelia, welcome. I'm glad to have you on again. You've been on several times, and I'm wanting just to talk a little bit about some of the meetings you're doing. But before we do that, I'm going to roll this video so you guys can see some of the precautions that are being taken around the food and beverage setup at their property. So you can see this is their actual meeting room, and They're using plexiglass. There's somebody that's asked if that's a new standard. It is a standard right now at all the hotels that I've been talking to across the country.
Unified message that goes out. And let's face it, if your boss is speaking, you probably listen to what your boss is saying. If you have attendees coming to a marketing program, they're individuals. They don't have a stake in it other than making money. And we collaborated with the group and asked them to have the same signage and the same message that we do. And they completely bought into it because they were of the same mindset. Yep. And we had pre-messaging going out to all the attendees. And then once they were on property, the same message was shown by the group as from us. We said it, the MC said it on a daily basis from the stage before the meetings began. And I have to say, it worked amazingly.
That's fantastic. And it is difficult when you have that many people to have 600 of them that are really doing what they're supposed to be doing. That pre-event communication is really, really, really key in ensuring the success, because it's really everybody's responsibility, not just the venue, not just the third party, but also the attendee, which is really important. And the only way to bring them in is making sure you're communicating with them. Did you?
And apologies for interrupting you. Visual reminders are huge because we are human, and it hasn't been that long. I catch myself that I walk out of my office and I'm like, oh, I need to take my face mask with me. So having these visual reminders throughout the property certainly helps.
Absolutely. It helps me too. I actually forget it sometimes now when I'm out just doing my everyday stuff, or I see somebody I know, I'm inclined to want to hug them. So at a meeting, it's really nice to have those visual cues to remind you that that's not the place for it anymore. So can you talk a little bit about the food service and the flow for 600 people? It sounds like that could be an area. I know we've talked about it, I know it can happen, but for the sake of our audience, that's an area of concern for a lot of people is potentially having flow issues. How did you handle that?
Absolutely. And I have to say, I'm lucky. I work at a very large property, so I have the luxury of space and of foyer space. You have to think it through. That's really what it comes down to. You can't wait to the last minute. You have to consider how people flow in and out of the event space. I have multi-level areas, and we made traffic directionals coming in on one level and going out on the other level. You have to think about your entries into a function space and the entries out, so there's no cross traffic. Same goes for meals. If you can stagger the attendees coming to the meal events, or even if you can separate them into smaller spaces where they can have their meals, all of that helps. It is the thought process and the collaboration that really makes it successful.
And then, and everybody wore their masks during the event, right?
They did.
Except for when they were sitting down and eating.
Correct. Yes. And we had the event space set up with 6-foot distancing. So once the event started, they were all in presentations and they were successfully 6-foot distance. They were allowed to remove their masks.
Perfect. So there's a lot of questions around this, Cornelia, about the masks and indoors. So are they still wearing masks while they're physically distancing indoors is something that I get repeatedly that comes up. And I feel like part of the reason is there's not everybody's created equal here. There's some properties that may not, or people that are not taking this as serious as others. But the standard policy, I think if you could cover what that is, would be great.
Yes. And it is the Orange County policy, plus in addition to that is a Hyatt Corporation policy. In Orange County, Florida, you have to wear a mask in all public areas, which helps us a lot in communicating that. our Hyatt company guide is that once you are seated, so if you move around, you have your mask on. Once you get ready to be sat, you have your mask on. Once you are seated and everybody around you is seated as well, and the program has started and you're successfully 6 foot distancing, you may take your mask off.
Perfect. So hopefully, I mean, that's in my opinion, that's really important that everybody's on the same page with that. And I do believe that it may vary from region to region because everybody kind of controls that. So if those of you that are on the line and are curious about what's happening in a specific region, I would look online. There's a lot of resources available now that you can find that information out fairly easily. And you can also ask any of the hotels or venues or suppliers you're working with what their comfort level is as far as social distancing and mask requirements. And that way, before you decide to have a meeting, that may be part of the criteria that you decide to use in whether or not you're going to work with a property or a supplier, is if they have taken this serious enough to protect everybody. So Cornelia, anything else you can add about any best practices for that 600-person meeting?
Well, I think I touched on most of them. It truly, I cannot stress this enough. It comes down to collaboration and sending out a unified message. It helps when you send information in advance, and we've talked about it in previous calls. A lot of companies are now doing the color coding that shows your level of comfort with the situation, but it also is a clear indicator of, I can't get too close to that person. They're not ready, they're not at that level. All of that helps.
Perfect. And how are you keeping your associates motivated?
That's a really, really good question. We have daily check-ins, we have daily stand-up meetings, we have a questionnaire that we go over on a daily basis where we actually say, how do you feel? How are you coping? Are you all right? Every single team does a morning stand-up meeting. And if you are in sales and events, you know that they used to be, what are you booking? Where are you going? Who are you calling? And now they are, how are you feeling? Are you doing all right? And are you physically okay?
Yeah. Whole different ball game now.
Absolutely.
Good. It's more human, I think.
Yes.
So there's also questions around the entering and exiting. And, you know, some people are saying, is it a requirement to have a 12-foot exit path? Or, you know, how are you keeping 6 foot between people? Can you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, I like that. That's a really great question. In some instances, you can't, right? You can't just make a bigger exit or entrance if that's what your room has. But every single room has more than one entrance or exits, unless it's a very tiny boardroom. And that's what you do. You make one your entry into the room, and you make the other one the exit into the room, and you designate them and have very clear signs on the inside and on the outside. On the outside, this is an entry. On the inside, please don't exit here. This is where people will come in, so there's no cross traffic.
And I think one of the things that we've been brainstorming on doing is like an airplane boards. You board from the back of the plane forward, and then you exit from the forward of the plane back. So we've been talking about our big general sessions where we have 700 or to a few thousand people at them, is the exit strategy is to do the same thing. So we would give, when they get their name badges, they'll have colors on their name badge, which will indicate that where they're going to sit. So you're sitting at the front of the room, you're sitting in the middle of the room, you're sitting at the back of the room. And so they enter and exit in addition to identifying entry and exit paths. So there are multiple ways that you could end up doing this setup. That has worked well for our planning as well. So, okay. I don't see if there's a question. Either health reasons or individual belief. How are properties handling those who prefer not to wear a mask? Either health reasons or individual belief. And that's important.
I like that. That's a great question. And we have alternatives. You have to wear a shield of some sort in a Hyatt hotel. If you can't wear a mask for health reasons, we will have exactly. Thank you for modeling. We will have face shields ready for you. If you refuse to wear either one or the other, we will kindly ask you to leave.
Perfect. That's exactly what I mean, and it shouldn't be, for those of you that are on here, in my opinion, that should not be hotel's responsibility unless it's in their public space. When they're in the meeting space, that to me is a personal responsibility as a meeting planner and the one responsible for the program, to make sure that all my people are adhering. And you're going to have a chance to go into some pre-event communication breakout rooms where we talk about that ahead of time. To set it up for success, you want to make sure you're communicating that up front, so that those people who would take issue with it can be identified before they ever get on site, and they can be offered either to not attend the meeting at all or offered an option to attend them virtually. So just really, really important that we realize there's options available and there's ways to move forward. We just all have to be able to share that and brainstorm it and make sure that we're enforcing those things. Thank you, Cornelia, for being on again. We'll come back to you in just a little bit. I'm going to welcome David Katz with the Viceroy in Chicago on. And I know David's had several meetings. He's been on talking about a wedding that he had that was really promising and went really well. And he's also has some more meetings that have been happening since then that he's going to come on and share. So David, talk to me a little bit about the picture and the diagram and your set, and because it doesn't look like those tables are social distance. So I'm sure you can explain what the mindset is on those meetings.
Yes. So it's interesting, you know, it's been a very fluid situation, as we all know. But it's interesting too that we had a wedding here maybe a month ago or so. And as of a month ago, we had the high boy tables set up strategically far enough apart from one another. Things have changed in Chicago. Now you're allowed to have 6 people at a table. Those tables will be set up for a birthday party for a 1-year-old birthday party that we had. We had the Viceroy Tesla car on the sun deck there, which was a lot of fun for picture taking. But for the birthday party, they wanted to do a reception and then a sit-down dinner or a sit-down lunch on the terrace. But in the city of Chicago, we can't have congregation of people around tables, so we have to have 6 seats at a table. So again, this was our design originally that you see the picture of, and then we had to switch it over to the round tables of 6. And it went beautifully. You know, again, we also set up a couple little cocktail tables so people could kind of do a reception style, but by sitting, just so we're not putting our team members in, you know, an environment that they shouldn't be in. So we took that into consideration prior to the event, which was very beneficial, I think, for everybody.
So were those all family units that were sitting at those tables?
Most of them, yes. And so there was all families that attended the event, but there was also it was all family, but not necessarily living in the same household.
Okay, so that's something that would make me nervous. So
Yeah.
I mean, I was interpreting the rules of each of the regions to be that you can sit up to 6 people at a round, but they have to be able to social distance if you're able to do that. So that have to be a really large round, or
Yeah.
they have to be from the same family unit.
Yeah, in Chicago, you can go to a restaurant and sit with, you know, 6 friends at a table, but you have to wear a mask now until whenever the server comes over to the table. So that is one of the requirements that we have at our hotel too, that everyone needs to wear a mask, even when they're sitting. If someone calls the server over, they can do that. But in Chicago, you don't have to be part of the same family to sit at the same table, like at a restaurant, if you will, yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you had the meeting, how did the food and beverage flow go?
Really nice. Again, we did small plates at the table. They wanted past hors d'oeuvres, which we couldn't operate at the time. But what we did was kind of like a high tea afternoon with the dishes basically delivered right to the table of all small bites, kind of like of tapas, if you will, different flavors, different cuisines as well, for the birthday party that they wanted to experience. So we're able to do those on small plates versus past hors d'oeuvres. But we also had the bar set up too, which was nice. So they could get up, walk, get their drinks, and kind of still feel they're at a cocktail reception versus going through the servers too. But we had a lot of fun with it as well. I think having the small plates versus, you know, the past hors d'oeuvre situation.
Yeah. I've seen a few different ways. I've also seen it where it's been a standing station where they have a plate of hors d'oeuvres right in front. And so you just walk up to the server that's there and they hand you a plate with that on it. So you see the display. And so that's what they consider their tray past hors d'oeuvres. For the wedding, can you talk about how you handled the cocktail hour as far as masks and social distancing goes?
Yeah, so at that time it was a little bit it was a different environment, and so we required everybody when you enter the hotel you have to have a mask on. Then we escorted the guest up the elevator, and at that time, whenever you're inside the property, at that time you had to wear a mask, and then when you were outside, you didn't have to wear the mask. But now, if we are in today's terms, everybody at that reception would have to be wearing a mask. But we've had a couple brides not want to wear a mask during their party at all. And so, we said, unfortunately, we can't operate your wedding, because it's going to just not fair to our staff. So we, let them cancel and give them their money back. Went our way and they went their way essentially. But again, we were upfront and very transparent, which I think you need to be and have good collaborations. But we've had some other brides, as you can see, the bride and groom with us there wearing their mask. And at that time, they didn't have to wear their mask outside, but they wore their mask completely outside, which was, turns out the way to go. That's the way we're leading.
And I know that when you had the food and beverage service during the cocktail hour, I know you mentioned that they needed to wear masks, but how were they able to eat the hors d'oeuvres or the food that was handled with the masks on, or did you make that mandatory they sat, or how did you handle that?
Yeah, so we were very upfront with the party and said, unfortunately, these are the rules. And every time our server approached the table, everyone put their mask back on. And I noticed there was a lot of minimizing the interaction with their servers too. I think the mentality that a lot of our guests have, they're not being as like, oh, can I get a Diet Coke? Can I get this? Because they don't want the server coming over to their table. They're trying to minimize risk and interaction as well. We did notice that though too, that the servers had more free time on their hands because they didn't have to assist. And we weren't. I think we also want to use our intuition if we need to fill waters up, but we were also being more conscientious. So we had extra pitchers on the table, extra bottles of water available as well for guests to take on their own versus having that interaction and stopping the dialogue of the event as well.
Perfect. Thank you, David, for being on again. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm going to welcome Rebecca and Sandra with Estancia La Jolla. And I'm just going to have, Sandra, I'm going to start off and just have you talk a little bit about some of the meetings that you've been having and how you guys are handling face-to-face live meetings during this pandemic.
Sure. Good morning, everyone, or maybe good afternoon somewhere, I don't know. So we obviously right now can only handle very small meetings or less people. Some people have actually opted to do them outdoors. You can see on the bottom left, somebody did an event for 6 people outside with AV. They all wore masks and sat around the table. You can see the different setups that we've done, but most of that was more for picture purposes because we haven't really been able to host too many. We have been doing some day meetings, small things. What's interesting is we're doing one next month that is supposed to be a 450 person event that they're just having a handful of people come in and they're going to live stream it from we have a beautiful amphitheater. So they're going to live stream it to all their attendees. So Rebecca is the one that is actually booking all these small events because she handles the local market. So she might have a little more input on that.
Perfect. Thank you, Sandy. And Rebecca, can you tell us a little bit about some of the meetings that you're doing now?
So our very first meeting back in, every state and every city and every hotel is a little bit different, but in California right now, we're allowed meetings up to 10. So our very first meeting back was at the very end of June, beginning of July, and that was that outdoor meeting on the left-hand side, which was just for 6 people outside. And then of course, all meals need to be outside as well, and guests wearing masks during the meeting. We probably only had about 5 meetings so far, and then we have about 5 to 7 meetings coming up in September, which we're excited about. But especially as we're in La Jolla, but we're kind of in this little biotech area where a lot of the companies that are surrounding us are actually working on coronavirus vaccines or the protective equipment or equipment for research for coronavirus. So a lot of people are back in the offices. So that's kind of a benefit that they're already back in their offices, and they're like, we would like to have a meeting not in our offices. So it's nice that we're kind of close by to a lot of those type of companies. But I would say just, yes, with social distancing and making sure all the meetings are outside, and really just trying to over communicate from the hotel side, and making sure for sales that we're communing with our conference services team, and that the conference services and the meeting planners that everybody's having the same expectations. Just because, some people, even within California, we're in San Diego, but we've had an attendee come down from LA, and LA is quite a bit stricter than San Diego. But then we've also had people come from potentially more rural areas that they don't really have to wear masks. And, every place is different, and everybody is coming to the meeting with a different expectation of it. So it's really just over communicating before the event happens, and then even once the attendees are on property as well.
I have to say that's probably been for me, the single most powerful thing you can do to have these meetings is really pre-event communication. And we normally didn't do that with all the participants to the level that we need to do it now to make these successful. And so it's a more smooth process for not only the attendee, but for the hotel and for the meeting planner. It helps everybody to communicate. So it's just a good process to have in place. There's a lot of questions around, I guess the reason why you'd want to meet, and I don't even know why this, I'm going to ask you a question. Why would you want to meet in person versus virtually? And that's the question that's being posed here for a group of 6. Why meet in person, and why meet in person? Why not virtual?
I think a lot of people have been working remotely. So I think as people kind of slowly start to come back into the offices, but a lot of the local companies that are coming back into the offices, they might be staggered. So they're not really actually, there's might be people just coming to the offices a handful Monday, Wednesday, a handful Tuesday, Thursday. And so I think people are just really craving that in-person connection versus virtual. And especially if you can do it safely, and especially in California, we can only do a max of 10 right now. So we haven't had any, of those larger 500, 600 people meetings yet. But I think people just, with working remote for so long and doing all of these Zoom meetings, I think people are kind of excited to see people face to face if they do it safely.
Plus, while virtual does have its benefits, it's not the same as a face-to-face meeting. And I can tell you that definitively. I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them now. And I can tell you that the face-to-face value is a much better value than a virtual experience, in my opinion, unless all I'm going to do is sit and be trained on something. The collaboration that goes into a face-to-face is amazing, which is why we're trying to get back to face-to-face meetings here. So it's critical. I appreciate you being on, Rebecca and Sandra. So I'll come back to you guys in a little bit. Thank you for sharing your pictures. I'm going to bring on now Neil Williams with PSAV. They came up with the Meet Safe program, which really was fantastic. And I'm going to just bring Neil on real quick and ask him, can you tell us what inspired Meet Safe?
Well, sure. Good morning, everybody. Really what inspired Meet Safe was exactly what we're just talking about. I mean, I'm checking boxes as I'm hearing everybody speak, and really people are communal creatures. They want to be together. They want to collaborate. They want to meet. They want to see each other face to face. And so as we started to have some of the phased reopening and some of the things that were happening to kind of move us forward a little bit after COVID-19 struck, it really came down to safety. It came down to risk and everything else. And our customers really wanted to have some assurance and some confidence that we could do this. Certainly, from a hybrid perspective, there's that offering that we're seeing, and we're seeing it more and more. Here we are today. But it really came down to, how can I be assured that I'm coming to a location that is going to be looking out for my health and safety? And also, our partners were wanting some collaboration as well. I think we're all trying to figure this out as it first started to happen. We really wanted to put our heads together and figure out, okay, how can we team? How can we collaborate? And to the point, early communication at all phases of the game has been so critical. So we really wanted to get our heads around as industry leaders, how could we do this? How could we give the customer some assurance? So it came down to really looking at 4 key tenets: meeting room design. How can we get creative with a smaller group in a venue? And then also, if we wanted to have a larger venue when that time came, how could we do that in a way that was safe? As we know, the smaller rooms, that beautiful outdoor set in La Jolla look fantastic.
I know. Not everybody can do that.
But we know that, the smaller meeting rooms give us a little more of that face-to-face element. But as you get to larger groups and as we grow, we're going to need some options. And those options are going to have to be perhaps maybe in the same location through the use of multiple rooms, or from that location through means of what we call a presentation stage, broadcasting to other parts of the world as part of a hybrid element. So we designed some room layouts. We took into consideration traffic flow, signage. How could we work with our partners to really recognize social distancing, physical distancing? Then we also
ask you, Neil, just real quick too, just a big portion of this is the cleaning guidelines, and we've had several questions come up that have asked about that. Can you talk about how you guys are handling your equipment?
Absolutely. So we really, you don't think about a lot of things. At least when we came into this pandemic, we didn't think about a lot of things, right? We walk up to a lectern and we use a microphone, and one person after another does that. And so that was the first place we started. How many people are using this microphone? And being a singer in another lifetime, having done several musical performances, I used to walk up to that microphone and go, wow, in front of all these folks, should I clean this thing? Yeah, but we started there, and what we do is we have a very comprehensive sanitization system, not only through each time the equipment is used. It includes, if you think about the high touch items that we have microphones, we have remotes and slide advancers and wireless mics, we have flip chart markers that you don't think about, radios and music devices, laptops and iPads, all of these things. So we have put together a cleaning program. When we set every room is set and sanitized 1 hour before the meeting. The card is left and a technician will interface with the customer and go through that process, show how it's been sanitized. Not only that, but the question came up earlier about what do you do when you have multiple presenters and microphones? Several options there. Obviously, different microphone for each presenter, sanitization of that microphone between presenters. One system that we use is we alternate microphones and we sanitize the microphone that was just used. If it's a lavalier microphone, we replace the windscreen, that little foam piece that goes over the microphone, to make sure that it's a new one and that microphone is sanitized, and we will swap that out. But all of these things are done in early collaboration. Again, great points made there, in early collaboration with our meeting attendees and our planners.
And I'd say another best practice for that, for those of you that are on, is rotate speakers instead of rotating participants. Rotate speakers into the rooms, and that's really a good practice, and it really helps because the equipment gets a chance to be disinfected in between there, but you don't have to worry about as much crossover with the participants. Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much for being on, Neil, and we'll ask more questions in a little bit. I'm going to bring on Mike Simzak from Oregonio now, and we're going to have him talk a little bit about really engagement. We're talking about, client engagement, attendee engagement, but pre-event, during event, and post-event using swag. And so I'd like to know, what is one of the more unique items you have seen done to arrive before a virtual show, or really just in general?
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me on this panel. Appreciate it. So one really cool one, and it's a newer company out there, is it's called Batch and Bodega, as you see right there. And what they do is they curate the best of unique small batch food makers and promotional items, or swag, as the kids are calling it. Yeah. So if your event was maybe nowadays with trying to swap over to virtual, if your event was canceled in Savannah, you can now maybe deliver and give the taste of Savannah. And it's a good way to bring travel to people's homes. Also, if you guys are out there prospecting, you can maybe send the best of your local fare out to potential clients and match it up with a great swag item as well. So they also have, snacks to munch on during the events that they all get at the same time, which brings a sense of camaraderie as well to the group out there. And at the end of the day, food equals comfort, and who doesn't need comfort at this time?
Exactly. I love the idea of bringing the local flair when we are not traveling as much right now, especially a lot of people that are doing the travel are doing more regional in nature. So that's a fantastic idea, Mike. How can you incorporate gifting to increase engagement? That's a really key one, because I mean, we've been in a virtual world, obviously, from March. And while we're getting back to face slowly, there's still going to be virtual involved. How do we do that? How do we increase engagement using this?
So I think honestly, you're doing it already without even subconsciously, with having the 8 speakers that we're going to be giving away for those that are the most active in the breakout sessions after this. So you're doing it naturally, and people want to dangle that incentive out to make sure people are paying attention, they're engaged, they're asking questions, they're retaining the information given out there. So that's a great way to do it. Another cool one I've been seeing out there recently too is having virtual gifting breaks towards maybe like the last 3/4 of a virtual event, where people can go to maybe a microsite and select the branded item of their choice. Kind of how you normally have like the branded swag table out there, in the hallway of your physical events. So having it more virtual and giving them the power of choice is super important. If they can pick what item they want from the slew of options that you can see here on the little slide, that way if they pick what they want, they're not just getting the thing given to them, and then if they don't like it, they're throwing that in the garbage can, and they're associating the event and that brand with a garbage can.
So I haven't met you before today, and I received from Denise Graziano, who introduced me to you, this gift idea. I don't know if everybody can see that here. I love the packaging, and it's from you, and it has my logo on the earbuds. But I love the packaging, the way it looks. And really, for me, when I got this, it was just before having one of these shows. It was really great to have something to open up and then use on the show. And I've liked it so much, I repackage it each time and put it back in there just to show everybody, because it's just, your packaging is really fantastic. And I love the idea of being able to try to keep us connected. And it's one more way of doing this, but sending something like this to everybody. Do you have any other types of products like this that carry maybe more, are more popular, or carry more of a return?
For sure. I mean, right now, the biggest things we're seeing trending are noise canceling headphones. It's absolutely going crazy for us right now, because me personally, I have a 6-month-old, and I need to block that screaming out as much as possible. Or when the UPS guy comes, the dog's going crazy. So noise canceling headphones are through the roof right now. And another great thing too, especially if you're trying to get that ROI for post event, is, and we're able to do it. And Denise has a lot of other resources as well for making things personalized. Putting somebody's maybe name on the actual headphone itself to give that personal touch and let that person or that attendee know that they're important. So definitely have that capability. It just makes the person feel extra special.
I love that. And then talk a little bit about this swag bag that you have over here.
Oh yeah, so it's just kind of a nice array of items that we can put and kit together, because as everybody knows, with less travel equals more budget for nicer things, and nicer things are going to give you that long lasting brand impression and associate your event or your meeting or your brand with quality. So it's a subconscious mentality that consumers have with quality, and equating that to whatever brand or logo is on it. So having this ability to do these crazy, awesome, cool kits just really kind of shines through with that.
Are there any other best practices or any other comments that you want to make to let the audience know anything special about swags or gifting or engagement using gifting?
Yeah, I would just say at the end of the day, gone are the days of how many widgets can we get for X budget. It's more of like, all right, what's the nicest thing we can get for X budget? Even if it means a few people don't get it, and you're not getting one thing for everybody. I think people want quality. And at the end of the day, quality matters, because like I said, you don't want to just give something out that's going to be the middleman's at the garbage can.
Exactly. And thank you, Mike, for that. And everybody, Mike's the one who is going to be giving us the speakers for the breakout room giveaways. So there's 8, there's a sample of it right there. There's 8 of them that he is going to be sending out. And so we're real excited. to have you on, and thank you for donating those. We really appreciate it. So Mike from Oregonio, thank you very much for being on.
You got it. Thank you.
So next I'm going to have coming up is going to be, give me just a second, is Cvent. So Jason from Cvent, I have, what should planners be thinking about when they are taking an in-person event in this environment? Can you talk a little bit about what you guys are doing in your solution?
Sure. As you can see in the slide, we're looking at things before, during, and after the event and utilizing technology. So if we're looking at before the event and trying to understand what we're doing, I'm not going to go into venue sourcing and layout planning. Those are the things that you really have to be doing with the hotel. We have social tables, which is that's a great way to plan your spaces three-dimensionally and making sure that you have all those safe distancing things that are planned. And then we have registration. I know I saw some comments talking about getting consent and understanding the locations that people came from, which I think is really, really critical there. So knowing where people came from, because then you can look at this post-event. So if there's any type of, I hate to say outbreak or a reason you need to do contact tracing, you have that information, and you also have all of the people abiding by your regulations, rules, and all of the lawyer talk, right?
Yes.
And then you have session planning. So I can go through all these, and I don't want to do it because that's kind of boring. The whole idea is to make sure that all of your attendees are able to plan strategically where they're going to maximize their face-to-face time. They understand exactly where they're going. They can schedule appointments before the event. And then when we're going to the event, you have a mobile app, and the whole idea is to have a single point encyclopedia so that we call it the single point of truth, so that you're not having to go to different screens, go to information booths, try to talk to different people that you weren't anticipating.
And
because when we look,
points.
Sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
All the different touch points that you have with that too. So I think your solution is really limiting the touch points, which makes everybody a little safer in this environment, which is one of the things I really like. So you have what all's on there? You have the agenda that can be on there.
Sure. The agenda, you can have all of your maps. You can set up your appointments all with a single point device.
Yep.
And then the only time that you need to get off of the device, at least for now, as we move forward developing new capabilities, is that you'll have to go to a screen when you're doing check-in, but you don't have to touch it because there's contactless check-in. So if you have the map, you show up, at the door. We talked about the stickers. We talked about having PPE available and making that information readily available for the attendee when they arrive, so they know exactly where they're going. They can go to a contactless kiosk to check in by just scanning a QR code, as we know with that touchless type of environment. Airlines are doing the same thing. Having your badge print. And then understand where you're going on the mobile device. So you know exactly where the session is, where you're holding appointments. And I think those are really critical to maximize your face-to-face time.
Absolutely. And I know when we were talking about using that, mainly it was the touchless feature that actually brought me to talking to you, but you can use it for communication, which I really liked, because for emergencies that pop up, and it could be a numerous type of emergencies or hazards, and we're trying to plan for COVID just that same way, right? It's another emergency or hazard, that a crisis that could potentially happen at a meeting, and you plan for it. So one of the things I liked about that is the communication piece of that. How easy is it to communicate with a large group of people?
Oh, it's great. I mean, we had this before, because there's always a reason a planner might need to shift, right? Let's say a session room comes to capacity and you want the planner to be able to pivot really quickly. So what we're talking about on the Cvent side is making sure planners have like overflow rooms. So if they have a room where they'd like to make sure that everyone can have a place to go safely see a session, you could open up that room for a particular session that went over capacity. You can send out a push notification with the mobile device, say like, hey, if you're looking to go to X session, please report to this area, refer to your map on your mobile device to understand where to go.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. I love the solution. I know you just got off of your Cvent Connect. That was the last couple of days. I was on it. A lot of great content was brought up on there. And I really love how quickly you guys were able to shift and kind of move into this new environment. Your technology, from a standpoint of doing the virtual piece of it as a virtual participant, was really outstanding. So congratulations to you guys for that. And thank you for being on, Jason. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, I'm going to welcome on Denise Graziano from Graziano Associates. Now, she's been very helpful and been on a lot of these calls. And a huge topic, which I think we're going to end up doing a topic alone that just talks about business development and client engagement. This is a huge topic. We had a lot of people that are interested in this, and we're just going to touch the tip of the surface on this call. But can you tell me a little bit, Denise, about how people can adapt their sales process in a COVID environment?
Sure. Thanks for having me back on, Michelle. It really is something that I think that the biggest service that you can do to all of your clients and prospects is to see yourself as a problem solver. You know, everyone has really been put in the same level after the pandemic. So we're all trying to come out of it in our respective ways based on how your state is allowing it. But for your clients that have been affected by this and they've been working virtually, they're looking for solutions. And so with all of these different bits of information that you've been sharing on these calls, you can help guide them. So really see yourself as a problem solver, not a salesperson, is one. And the other thing, and I've told this to a number of people, is to follow the money, because there are some companies that are just thriving because of the situation. And those companies have money to spend. So follow those people as well.
And I think that, like, those people who are doing, let's say, cold calls or picking up, because that's a nature of many people's calls, and a lot of people on the hotel side do that. How would they be able to approach this in a manner that is that's welcomed?
A hotel calling on a prospect?
Yeah. Like, do you have any advice for? I mean, one of the things that I'm saying is so empathy is important. We're all in this situation, and so just to identify that we're in it. Like when I'm doing sales calls, I would say that this is a crazy environment we're in right now, and I know I'm very social. I miss connecting with people. How are you doing? How are you handling that? So empathy is really important to have, and sharing that really goes a long way to the connection initially. Do you have
Absolutely. Empathy is always something that you should lead with. Because it's a natural part of where we are. But again, from the perspective of reaching out, I would say just sharing all of these things that Cornelia shared and Rebecca and the other property David shared, that people are doing events and how they're doing it, and educating your prospects is really something that they haven't had the benefit of being on these calls and seeing it. So really, I think it's just an awareness of what can be done.
Absolutely. And I that's a really great point, because that's what I've gone to rather than the sales part of it. And I know we get locked down sometimes in semantics. It's really, you're educating your client, and they need to be educated in how to move forward. Otherwise, they're just going to stay forward. Just like everybody on this call has needed to be educated. We've had to collaborate about how to do that.
Absolutely.
So that's been really important. And then I would say, one of our bullets is look for opportunities in the new normal. Like you said, there are companies that are thriving and doing super well. So look to see what they're doing, and also look to call on those companies that are doing really well in this time frame, not to the exclusion of other people that would potentially have business and maybe aren't having it right now because of the environment, or they're not sure how to move forward. But it's a way for you guys to tailor your efforts.
Right. And just to pick up on the opportunities, if you think alone of the innovations that you've shown on these calls these last 2 months, for example, that little coffee urn adapter that makes a coffee urn a self-serve piece. People are looking and creating opportunities. Neil with his windscreen changes and how they're cleaning with Meat Safe. All of these innovations are born out of opportunity that people saw. So in the same way, you can do it when you're trying to build events.
Yeah, exactly. And we're all in this together. So we just need to remember that. I know that's a cliche that keeps coming up over and over again, but it's the absolute truth. So Denise, do you have any other advice for anybody out there as far as client engagement and business development goes?
Well, I think that you should continue to reach out and really to look for opportunities to serve them where they are. So it's really about doing your homework, understanding what is going on with that client company, because everybody's in a different position, and be very knowledgeable when you approach them, because that is going to show a level of interest and helping them to achieve their business goals, because typically events are tied to business goals, and that's what you need to see yourself helping them solve.
Perfect. Thank you for being on here. We're going to be going into breakout. So this is something new that we haven't done before. So I just want to let you guys know that you're going to be assigned automatically. So there's nothing anybody needs to do. You will be assigned. There'll be 8 minutes in each of the breakout rooms to talk about your topic, and then you'll return to the general session automatically at the 8-minute mark. So make the best of that time. You will have one of the panelists will be your main point of contact, and that panelist will lead the conversation. They'll start off with some information that they're going to be giving you about some best practices that they've done, and then they're going to ask for feedback from each of you guys on any innovative new ideas, any questions. And the goal is to come up with some innovative ideas regarding the topic and figure out what are the top ones in those areas. So remember to contribute. We will be identifying the top contributor in each of the breakout sessions as a breakout star, and you will be getting the gift that speaker from I always want to say it wrong, Oregonio, and that's both Denise and Mike's gift to everybody. So want to make sure you guys are aware that will be coming, and you have to be present, so don't get off this call. Okay. So let's go ahead and get geared up and get ready to go into your breakout sessions. And we'll see you back here in the general session to recap on each of those so everybody gets the benefit of all the topics. And we'll start that process now. And
Hi everyone, how are we all?
Good.
Good. So give another couple seconds for everyone to get joined in. My name is Jessica Pearson. I'm the Director of Operations here at Meeting Sites Pro. And what we're going to be talking about today is pre-meeting communication. For those who are on, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
And the purpose of this is to give you some opportunity to ask questions and to engage on additional ideas. What we're going to start with right now is just kind of a level setting discussion. What we've discussed previously in regards to pre-event communication is that it's hugely imperative to having a successful meeting. Setting those expectations ahead of time with your client, with your venue, with your attendees is really just what's going to make or break your in-person meeting. So what we've discussed is with the venue in particular, you need to make sure you're discussing attrition and cancellation ahead of time, what your room block's looking like, what your attendance is looking like. There is a lot of flexibility right now in the industry. Most hotels we've talked to are just excited to be having an event. So they're comfortable if your events, instead of 100 being 50, working with you on that, but just making sure you're communicating that, as well as kind of the venue capabilities and staffing, what they're doing in terms of cleaning, what they're doing in terms of food and beverage, and making sure you have guidelines for that ahead of time, making sure, again, you know, their cleaning procedures, discussing the emergency response ahead of time. There is a potential that you're going to have a COVID case, and making sure that that is reviewed ahead of time. You need to make sure you're looking at your communication with the client, what their meeting needs are, what agenda flexibility they have. You know, do they have the ability to go outside? Do they have the ability to add their breaks to be 30 minutes? Do they have the ability to move speakers instead of attendees through the breakouts? And then the big one that we really want to focus in on is the communication with attendees. There's been a lot of discussion on, well, what do you do if somebody doesn't wear a mask? Well, what if you do if, you know, people aren't wanting to social distance, if they're wanting to sit at all the same tables, if they're not comfortable with this? And what we really recommend to do that is to communicate all of that ahead of time. So making sure you're informing and educating ahead of time as to what will be expected, what the venue's doing, what travel will be like, and giving all that information ahead of time. You're setting expectations. So you're saying ahead of time, like, hey, you're going to have to wear a mask if you're not comfortable with it. Here are your options for the alternative. You're encouraging questions, and something we recommend doing is a code of conduct and listing out, here's A, B, and C that you'll be expected to do at the event. Let us know ahead of time if you have any questions. So with that, what I want to ask is if you guys have any additional information that you think would be really important to give to your attendees ahead of time.
Well, have you heard of anybody doing the waiver and getting away with it, or is it even stand up anywhere? Like, I think that's my concern.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, so
Get
take
it.
this with a grain of salt.
Yep.
What we've discussed on our previous calls and kind of with our calls with other lawyers and attorneys is that something a waiver does is it says, hey, if you get hurt or you get harmed, it's not my fault.
Right.
And kind of what that outlines is that you might potentially have a fault to be had in that regards. So what we really lean towards is more informing and educating. So letting them know, here's what we're doing. We can't guarantee anything. Here are the best practices we're putting in place. Here's what we're expecting of all attendees. And really coming from a place of information rather than education. Because really what we've learned about waivers too is if you're truly liable, a waiver is not going to help you. And if you're not liable, whether a waiver there or not, you're not going to be able to be held at fault.
Right.
So we really lean towards with that prevent communication, again, an aura of information. Does anyone else have any comments or anything to add? Go ahead, Christina.
I had a question about in terms of this waiver communication, is there any kind of communication that people are using that says, as an attendee at this event, post-event, should one of the other attendees we find out later is positive, what is going to be the protocol or procedure for notifying attendees that were at the event, as part of this, like what is our responsibility as event planners to do that kind of follow-up? Is anybody saying anything about that? Or
yeah, they're absolutely seeing things about that. One of the most important parts is in terms of having best practices for these events is to do that kind of contact tracing post-event. And in terms of pre-event communication, letting your attendees know, like, this is what's going to happen. If you have symptoms or you're tested positive, please let us know, and outlining what those procedures would be for everybody to be notified of that.
But what have you done as far as, all the HIPAA guidelines, I think, is our country's biggest problem in this case of tracing. And hence, so you've collected everybody's information of who's been at your event and probably are doing even better job of keeping track of who's in which rooms at which time, right? So so you can actually trace something. So to Christina's point, how much information then do you give out after the fact if you do have a case?
Yeah, and again, I'm not a lawyer. I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
But I think what we would really advise is to discuss with the local health departments. There is a contact tracing course through Johns Hopkins. It's a free contact tracing course, and that's really given us a lot of background on how to move forward with these things. But it's that information. Generally, there's no names included. It even struggles a lot to let people know what times they were in any rooms. But again, I would lean towards the local health departments and that Johns Hopkins tracing course. One best practice for these meetings, and obviously not every meeting has the budget to do this, but is to hire an outside health company to manage these items is the best practice.
I just had a note. I attended the Al-Hi meeting last week, and they were talking about, they stressed how that it's a shared responsibility between us and the attendees of keeping everything safe. So they said, they suggested to do a document that people have to sign beforehand, and not even that it's not like a legal document, but just kind of a personal responsibility document saying, I commit to following the safety rules and protocols of the event. And that, just kind of having to sign that's saying, I'm going to do this stuff, kind of puts a little more responsibility on the attendees also. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, we completely agree with that. That is what we would count as a best practice.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Are there any other questions or anything else you guys want to add to a pre-event communication, or anything you would think it is important to give your attendees or your venues or your clients ahead of time?
Do you have suggestions of how to word the, when you say if you're immunocompromised, you may not want to attend the event, how you word that nicely and politely.
Yeah, I think what we lean towards is focusing a lot on things that people can do. So it's not that you can't attend the event, it's if you're immunocompromised or have other underlying conditions, your options for participating in this event are this virtual option, or are this, or is this. You
Okay.
go next week, but really outlining what the options are rather than what the options aren't has been really important. Okay, so with that, we are approaching 8 minutes. So are there any lasting items anybody wants to ask? Any additional questions?
Do you find that you're now seeking RSVPs a bit sooner so that you can have multiple communication points to continue to, like, here's what our expectations are, here's what we're doing? Because it seems like you have to do it more, therefore you got to know who's coming much earlier.
Yeah, the days of getting the RSVP 24 hours in advance aren't really an option at this point.
It's gone.
I didn't even think of that, so thank you.
Okay, well,
do you have examples? Do you have any examples of pre-event communication you've used that you could send to us?
Yeah, I think we'll send some in the resources. There is the
Okay.
one on the slide now that you can look at as well.
Okay, it's so small I can't really see it.
Yeah, I can't see it either.
Yeah, we can send that one out.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. We're getting all the groups back in right now, and we're going to get ready to do breakout room recaps. And again, the goal of this was to come up with 2 top innovative ideas or solutions, key takeaways that you guys discussed on the call when you were inside your rooms. No, we had, and I'm going to start off, you guys, with Sandra and Rebecca from for the food and beverage sets topics, but we're still waiting to get everybody back in. And I don't know, Sandra or Rebecca, which one of you guys want to go ahead and come off mute to start your recap?
I'll come off. So we had a nice little discussion. A couple of takeaways from it was, number one, we talked about sustainability because, you know, with a lot of the grab and go items that we're doing, we're using a lot more plastic, you know, we're talking about a coffee station, but they're not using the ceramic cups, they're using the to-go cups. And several people brought up the fact that, you know, they were concerned with the sustainability. Eileen brought up that there's a company called Impulse Enterprises that does like stackable glass dishes so that was a neat solution. And then the other topic that was brought up was that because what we're finding is the coffee stations can be a challenge. And Eileen also brought up that if they've done large meetings and groups, but in the actual general session, they will have an attendant that is there to serve the coffee. They have the stickers that everybody's social distance while they're in line. And then they ask like what they want in their coffee and hand them the item so that they can, you know, fix it. The only challenge with that is you have an attendant in a room for 8 hours and it is very costly on the hotel side. So this is something that we're also trying to figure out. So if anybody has any other ideas later, we'd love to hear them.
Some of the stuff we talked about on the calls, on the earlier calls, Sandy, is there's a little device that you can actually affix onto it's like a spigot that you can fix onto most people's. I know Cornelia's, it didn't end up working on, they bought a few of them, but you put it on your beverage device and it makes it touchless. And so it's self-serve. So you can look into that. They're about, I think, $17, $18 a piece. And the other option is to have an attendant behind plexiglass. We've had pictures of this on previous shows, but what the attendant does is they have some black, so if somebody wants black coffee, can come up to a table and pick up a black coffee and go. But if you're wanting something that's special, or your tea or your decaf, they come to the attendant serves them through that. It's actually so fast. I mean, you can get through hundreds of people in not very much time. It's not like it takes much longer. And they hand out little packets of stuff. So it's not like asking how many sugars you want or how many of this you want. You want the condiments, you get it in a little bag, and it has a napkin and a stick and a creamer and a sugar, and you walk away with that. So that's kind of some of the best practice we've come up. For those of you on the panel, do you have any other best practices around that, or did I cover it? If I've left something out, let me know. Okay, so I'm gonna ask who is the top producer in our rock star, breakout star.
Aileen Babayan.
Babylon. Eileen, are you on?
Aileen Babayan, Babayan.
Yes, I'm on, Michelle.
Hi, Eileen. I can't see you. Can you turn that picture on so I can see you for a moment?
It's like,
You're almost there. Yay! Thanks, Eileen. I appreciate you being on and for sharing your best practices and feedback on that. Make sure that we get Sandy's going to text us put your information in the chat so that we have it. And thank you for participating.
awesome. You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to ask now for Denise Graziano for client engagement to come on and give us your top 2, and then let me know who the top contributor was.
Okay, well, we were continuing conversation that we had with the larger group, and really for companies that are looking to jumpstart business, sometimes it might help to offset costs by collaborating with a partner that would be non-competing, but to go after target the same type of client base to offset costs, to do a little marketing outreach. And then in terms of warm calls, reaching out first to the people that you've already been in contact with and giving them updates on what has been working and what is new in the marketplace. And I thought all of the people who asked questions were wonderful. So I will say that Wendy LeBlanc, because she had the courage to go first, that she is the top performer.
Wendy LeBlanc, are you on? Can you say something?
I'm here.
Yay. Thank you, Wendy, for being on for that. And thanks for being first to jump out the gate. And sometimes it's a little difficult to do that. Is the session good for you?
Yes, very good. Thanks, Denise. I really appreciate the feedback. It's good.
Thanks, you guys. Okay, so next we're going to talk about food and beverage sets. Cornelia, are you on?
I am here.
Okay, give us your update.
Well, we had a great team that some of them had gone out or had experienced some events, but it didn't feel like a lot of them had executed. So it was more a best practices discussion rather than new ideas. And obviously, if you do buffets, have one person serving, don't have multiple people cross-contaminate. The PC, where we talked about that everybody has like a creamer, their salt and pepper individual, so nothing can be shared. We talked about silverware versus plasticware, which some restaurants seem to go the route of plasticware just to be safe, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Though if you do it right, you can use silverware, roll it in a napkin, and then let it rest for 24 to 48 hours before you use it. And then one of the things that I actually didn't get to talk about was if you have meal events and it is a buffet, that you go to the old-fashioned way of calling tables to the buffet and coordinate it in that fashion, so there are not too many people in line. And she's still IMing me with questions, so my winner is Shannon Winsler.
Shannon, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Where are you? Wave your arm so I can see. There you are. Thank you for being on. I appreciate it. And how was the session? Did you get?
It was good. I wish we'd had a little bit longer.
I know 8 minutes goes by so fast.
Yeah, but it was great. Thank you.
We're talking about having another one where we just set up and dedicate some more stuff to just these topics. So thank you for being on for that. Okay, Next is David Katz, meeting room sets.
Yeah, so we had some great conversation and got off topic, and then we got back on topic, and so it was fantastic. But Erica Castro made a couple good points too, and kind of got me thinking a little bit as well. But they recently had a group at her hotel. It's a smaller property, and they had a group utilizing the meeting room, but they did it on a time flow. They kind of just like they did with the buffet, like Cornelia just mentioned, calling people into the room at a time. And I think it was a training meeting as well, so that everyone had their own time to come in there as well, which is kind of a nice thing. And then they refreshed the room throughout the day as well after each group left. And so they really maximized the space in there as well. So again, no matter if you're a big property or a small property, I think you can really maximize the space just by splitting up the group a little bit.
Perfect. And who was the top performer?
Erica.
Erica?
Erica Castro, yes.
Are you on, Erica? There you are.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you, Erica, for being on. How was it?
It was great. I agree. I would have liked a little bit more time. I think it was some great conversation and it kind of forced you to engage. I'm definitely one of those who likes to go silent on these. So it made me turn my camera on and participate. So thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for all of you guys that did do that. I know this stuff makes people a little bit nervous doing it. I've even gotten one for the first time when I did the breakout sessions, and I just stayed in. When they called me to come off camera, I got out. So thank you for being brave. Okay, Jessica Pearson to do pre-event communication.
Yeah, so we had a good conversation about pre-event communication and all the different facets to that are needed, from your communication with the hotel to your communication with your client. And then we really focused on communication with the attendee and how important it is to inform and educate prior to the meeting. Kind of the big takeaways we talked about was in that pre-event communication, how important it is to focus on what you can do rather than what isn't going to happen. So rather than focusing, on the waiver side of things, when you're telling them, here's what you can't sue me for, here's what you can't do, focusing more on the code of conduct of here's what we're doing, here's what we're asking you to do. And then rather than saying, if you don't agree to this, you can't come, or if you have pre-existing conditions, you can't come, saying instead, if you don't agree with this, here's a virtual option. If you are concerned about this, here's a virtual option, or here's our dates for next year. And really focusing again on that positive aspect of what is happening and what you can do and what opportunities there are. And then the other big takeaway we had was talking about kind of RSVP lead time. With all this pre-event communication needed, a consideration is that, the days of having an RSVP 24 hours in advance are kind of gone at this point. You're really needing those RSVPs earlier and earlier so that you can provide this information to your attendees ahead of time. And I had a really tough time picking a breakout star from our group because I think everyone contributed really well. But I'm going to shout out Anna Walters just for her contributions and some kind of thought-provoking questions that she asked.
Anna Walters, are you on? Anna Walters?
I'm here. Yeah. Hi.
There you are. Thank you. How was it?
Thank you. It was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Perfect. Glad you guys were on and were able to do that. Thanks, Jess. Okay, and then Desi Whitney, she did the COVID-19 risk assessment. And I know she had some complications on her in her breakout room. So I'm going to go ahead and do her update. The main thing they talked about on there is the GBAC accreditation. And I know, Cornelia, you got it. So can you just tell us a little bit about what that accreditation is?
Absolutely. It's the Global Biorisk Council, and it's a 3-hour course, which is the smallest one. And you go through the steps of prevention, and it explains to you what a virus is, how it spreads, and what you can do in order to eliminate that spread. It's not geared toward the hospitality industry, but it is very, very eye-opening. And I have to admit, I'm washing my hands a heck of a lot different than before, after I learned and watched the video.
And we were talking, a lot of the convention centers have this accreditation, and Cornelia, your hotel has it too. One of the things I liked about it best is that it actually has a inspect what you expect. They actually do audits. And so kudos for you guys for being a hotel taking a step out and doing something like that. So that's great.
Thank
And
you.
then
And let me just repeat it. Tina just asked what it's called. It is GBAC, short GBAC, and it is the Global Biorisk Advisory Council.
perfect. Thank you for that. And then our top contributor from DESI is Tanya Andrade. Are you on? Tanya, there you are.
Hi, sorry, I was on mute.
That's okay. Thank you for being on. How was the session?
It was great, just too short. And thank you for all the COVID tips throughout the weeks. I mean, I get a lot of my information from you and the CDC. So attending the course you recommended for Johns Hopkins on Coursera, which is long. But just want to thank you for being in the forefront and helping the industry move forward. Love to see all of the events that are happening. I would love to just do a blog posting, these are the events that are happening, because I think people feel that no events are happening. I constantly hear that. And I'm in California, so it is very limited here to 10 people, but it's great to see other places. And I love that you share that. So thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. I think that the more we can share this information, the more confidence we build in everybody. So I really do appreciate the feedback. Okay, so thank you guys, everybody. Thanks for sharing. I'm glad we all got to interact and engage. Those of you that were identified as the top engagers at the breakout sessions will be getting a portable speaker. So look forward to that. And we'll be handing out a couple extra ones randomly after the call. So just want to let you guys know. I want to just remind you too that our goal every week has been to continue to build confidence and trust in our ability to meet face-to-face. And with safety top of mind, of course. I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that our purpose is to inform, inspire, elevate, share, and spread hope. All while we get back to business with safety top of mind. I hope you gained at least one new resource to help you on this journey of our new normal and help you confidently move forward. We've had these meetings every Thursday. This one is our last in the series. So it's bittersweet. I really have enjoyed this. We're looking and talking about doing some of these things moving forward, and may have a small donation thing on it that will help with some of the costs of that video editing and the costs that go into putting these things together. And so we're talking about doing something like that, but it probably won't be until October when we start gearing up and doing it. But I want to thank you guys for your dedication, your loyalty. You guys, I mean, you being here and spending your time here means a lot to me, and it says a lot about the content you're getting to donate that time. So thanks you guys for everything. Stay healthy. We're going to keep our contact list up here for a little bit. I also want to let you know that this did go live. It was on Facebook Live, it was on LinkedIn Live, it was on YouTube Live, it went live. So this was our first one that we've ever gone live on, and thank you guys for being a part of that. That was really important for us. So you guys will be able to actually watch this this in its entirety online. And if you want to see the link for that, again, you can go to any of the Meeting Sites Pros LinkedIn or Facebook page, like us there, go down there and you can see the content. And we also will post any of the things that we're doing in the future on this. So thanks again, you guys. Take care.